So welcome students. Today we move on to Economics Unit 2, Globalization and Trade. So the word globalization or global means worldwide. Trade means selling, importing and exporting of goods. We say vyabaram, right? That is it. So now introduction. So we have already learned this liberalization, privatization and globalization, which is called as LPG in short. So liberal means making it free, private means giving to individual owners, globalization is setting it worldwide. Have become a much talked of subjects among politicians, economists and businessmen in modern days. So we talk about this in modern days. So globalization. Globalization is the integration of a country with the world economy. So each country has an economy. Economy is money. Okay. So when we need to improvise our economy, we need to sell our products or get products from the world. So that is when a country is getting attached to another country worldwide for world money, then it's called as globalization. Basically, globalization signifies a process of internationalization plus liberalization. So when I say globalization, that means it is internationalism, that is worldwide, plus liberalization. History of globalization. So you can see that diagram there, where from everywhere around the world we do trade. Okay. The term of globalization was introduced by Pro Theodore Levitt. The historical background of globalization can be discussed on 3 stages. So we have 3 stages for this: archaic globalization, proto-globalization and modern globalization. The first one is archaic globalization. Andre Gunder Frank argued that a form of globalization has been in existence since the rise of trade links between Sumer and Indus Valley civilization in the 3rd millennium. So there was a person called Andre Gunder Frank. He said that globalization, that is connecting countries worldwide, was already there in which millennium? In the 3rd millennium itself. How does he prove it? He said trade was done, that is selling and getting goods were done between Sumer and Indus Valley. You know, Indus Valley is related to India, so Indus Valley civilization. An early form of globalized economics and culture known as archaic globalization existed during the Hellenistic age. So he said, so there was already early itself we were able to note down globalized economics, and this was done during the Hellenistic age. An early form of globalization in the trade link between the Roman Empire, the Parthian Empire and the Han dynasty made the commercial links between these powers inspired the development of the Silk Road. So in the early form, in the early days, if you see, there was trade link between 3 great empires. One is Roman Empire, Parthian Empire and the Han dynasty. And because of this, it helped for them to develop the Silk Road. Silk Road is connecting these empires through selling silk. So that was a route actually. So that was Silk Road. The Islamic age was also an important early stage of globalization. So when Islam, that is Muslim community, when they started to flourish, this was also a stage of globalization. The advent, that is the entry of Mongol Empire, though destabilizing to the commercial centers of the Middle East and China, greatly facilitated travel along the Silk Road. These pre-modern phase of global exchange are sometimes known as archaic globalization. So here we see that, let me understand here the advent. So with the entry of Mongol Empire, though they were they were not stable, they were trying to become commercial centers of Middle East and China. This helped the Silk Road route to facilitate. So these pre-modern phase of globalization, global exchange, or sometimes these are known as archaic globalization. Proto-globalization. The next phase is known as proto-globalization. It was characterized by the rise of maritime European empires in the 16th and 17th centuries. First the Portuguese and Spanish empires, and the Dutch and the British Empire. So this was the next globalization, wherein we see that there are this happened during the 16th and the 17th centuries, where we have the European empires flourishing, the Portuguese coming, the Portugal people coming, the Spanish Empire, empire means kingdom, Dutch was into it, and the British empires. In the 17th century, globalization became private business phenomenon like British East India Company. So we know this British East India Company, which was brought to India by the British people. So it became a private one. Private is an individual owner. Described as the first multinational company and the first Dutch East India Company found in 1602 were established. So two British East India Company came in 1600 and the Dutch East India Company came in 1602. Modern globalization. The 19th century witnessed the advent means entry of globalization, approaching its modern form. So now it was changing. Worldwide it was changing. Between the globalization in the 19th and in the 20th century, there are significant differences. So between 19th and 20th century, globalization, that is trading worldwide, was something entirely different. There are two main points. One is the global trade in his centuries as well as the capital investment and the economy, and the other is the global trade in the 20th century shows a higher share of trade in merchant production, a growth of the trade in services, and the rise of production and trade by multinational firms. So first one, he says there are two main points. One is global trade in its centuries as well as the capital investment. So countries started to put lots and lots of investment into it, and the economy. And the other one was the trade that we see in the 20th century, where a higher share of trade was done in merchant production. So they were producing more. Trade and traders in South India historical perspective. So what was happening? The trade was, what was the trade happening in South India, and what about the traders? People who are doing that kind of trade are called as traders. Southern Indian trade guilds were formed by merchants in order to organize and expand their trading activities. So they had to form guilds which are by which the merchants can sell their products. Their trade guilds became channels. So that is like a route, okay, through which Indian culture was exported to other lands. So not only products, but even the culture started to get along. Early traders. In the year 1053 AD, the Kalinga traders, that is modern Odisha, brought red colored stone decorative objects for trade and also cotton textile to Southeast Asia at an early date. So the first trade that we could see is the Kalinga traders, and what they brought is they brought red colored stones and for trade, and even they brought in cotton textile. Then we have the European traders. This was due to the trading activities of the various European companies which came to India during this period. So European traders are traders who came from Europe, and they brought in lot of trading activities into our country. The discovery of a new all-sea route from Europe to India via Cape of Good Hope by Vasco da Gama had for reaching reparations on the civilized world. So you can see here the discovery of a new sea route from where to where, from Europe to India, and through which part was Cape of Good Hope. Who did this? It was Vasco da Gama. So this had an unwelcomed result. So he found a route, and this was had an unwelcomed result in the civilized world. Civilized world is developed world. The Portuguese. The Portugal people, under the leadership of Vasco da Gama, landed at Calicut on May 1498. Profits of goods brought by Vasco da Gama to Portugal were to 60 times cost of the entire expedition to India. So here the Portuguese, they came to India under the leadership of Vasco da Gama, and they landed in Calicut. Now what happened is, the profit that these people made was 60 times more than the expenditure they did in reaching India. The second trip of Vasco da Gama in 1502 led to the establishment of trading station at Calicut. Now they made a station itself. They were, they set up a own place at Calicut, Cochin and Cananore. Cochin was the early capital of the Portuguese in India. The Dutch. The Dutch undertook several voyages. Voyages means journeys, from 1596 and formed the Dutch East India Company, which is in 1602. In 1605, Admiral van der Hergen established Dutch factory at Masulipatanam and Pettapolli, Nisavapattanam, Devanampattinam. So he was the person who established Dutch factories at 3 different places. In 1610, upon negotiating is talking, okay, over a price value, with the king of Chandragiri, found another factory at Pulicat. So he went on talking about setting a factory at Pulicat. Other commodities exported by the Dutch were indigo and Bengal raw silk. So what are the products? Commodities means products that were exported by the Dutch. It was indigo and raw silk. Pulicat was the headquarters of the Dutch in India. The British. This is very known to us. On 31st December 1600, Queen Elizabeth granted charter. Charter means a written agreement to the East India Company. So that was the company which is in Britain. On the southeastern coast, the English established at Masulipatanam. So on the southeastern coast of our country, the English, that is the Britain people, they established at Masulipatanam in 1611 and near Pulikkal in 1626. So 2 places. The Sultan of Golconda granted the English the Golden Fireman in 1632, by which they were allowed to trade freely in their kingdom ports. So the Sultan, that is the king of Golconda, he gave permission for them to trade in their ports freely. In 1639, built a fortified factory in Madras. So 3rd place, they made a factory in Madras, which known as Fort St. George, which is still there, which soon displaced Masulipatanam as headquarters of the English settlement on the Coromandel coast. So once Madras was set in, Masulipatanam was not still more as a headquarters. The Danes. The Danes formed an East India Company and arrived in India in 1616. The Danish settlements were established at Trangobar in Tamil Nadu in 1620, which was the headquarters of Danes in India. They failed to strengthen themselves. So here if you see the people here, they failed. The Danish people, we call them, they failed and they were forced to sell up their settlements. Okay. They failed to strengthen themselves in India, and in 1845 they were forced to sell all their India settlements to the British. The French, that is people from France. The first French factory in India was established in 1668 by obtaining permission from the Sultan of Golconda. So they got the permission from the king of Golconda. In 1693, the Dutch captured Pondicherry but was handed back to the French. So what happened here? The Pondicherry is a French settlement area. The Dutch first they captured it, but ultimately later they gave it back to the French people. In 1701, Pondicherry was the headquarters of the French. Okay. Globalization in India. In India, the period after 1980 to 81 was marked by severe balance of payment difficulties, mainly due to hike in oil price and Gulf War in 1990 to 91 and hostilities in West Asia. So what happened is, after 1980 to 81, India was facing money problems because of there was a hike in the increase in the oil price, and the Gulf War, that took place in 1919 to 91, and many people were taken as hostile, that is, they were taken from our place to West Asia. When the new government took over in June 1991, India had unprecedented balance of payment crisis. So, when the new government came in, India was under payment difficulties, and they had to face a crisis, a fall. With the downgrading of India's credit rating, so each country will have a rating. It's like giving rank for them. By some international agencies, there was heavy flight of capital out of India. So, lot of people. So, once when there is no business happening in a country, what will happen is they will try to take off all that they have invested into that country, and they will try to invest in some other country. So, that was happening at that point of time. Since India lost its credit worthiness, that means the countries, abroad countries, they were not willing to put their investment in India. Since India lost its credit worthiness in the international market, the government mortgaged, that means it's like, it leaves its wealth to the bank. That's called mortgage. Kadan. Okay, the government mortgaged 40 tons of gold to the Bank of England. So it kept how many tons of gold in England? 40 tons of gold in England, and it got money. Under these circumstances, the government for 1991 to 92 presented its budget in July 1991. So after doing all this, the government of India, they presented their budget. And with a series, that means a step of policy changes which underlined globalization, liberalization and privatization. That is the time when they brought in globalization, liberalization and privatization. This has come to be called as India's new economic policy. So this, in the year of 1991, that is, India brought forth a new economic policy by which India was planning to make money. These policies were strengthened when India signed the Dunkel Draft in 1994. So they signed a draft with Dunkel. Reforms means changes made to adopt globalization. So you have to remember, globalization was already there, but now the government is trying to bring in new changes. Abolition of industrial licensing except for a few industries. So first thing the government did was it never gave license to many industries except for few industries. Reduction in the number of industries reserved for public sector. So they tried to reduce the industries that were there for the public people. Fixation of a realistic exchange rate of rupee to exchange exports of Indian goods. So they fixed a rate for the rupee in exchange with exports, okay, for the goods that they got. Foreign private sector by making rupee convertible on trade on current account and by reducing import duties. So they made foreign private sectors, they made money through it, current account they made, and they reduced the import duties. Foreign exchange regulations were suitably amended. So whenever they did foreign exchange, their regulation, their laws were changed accordingly. Amended means changed. The statutory liquidity ratio, which is called as the SLR, was reduced to increase lending by RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India. So they are supposed to have some amount of money that was reduced because they could lend, India could lend money, they could increase lending through the RBI. The next one is a very interesting topic. the multinational corporation, which we call as MNC. So we hear so many youngsters saying, I work for an MNC, which means a multinational company. Multinational corporation is a corporate organization which owns or controls productions of goods or services in at least one country other than its home country. So if a company it owns its company in another country apart from its own hometown, we call it as a multinational corporation. Evolution of MNC. So how did this come? Like the East India Company, which came to India as a trading company. So East India Company came to sell its products, and then its net throughout the country to become politically dominant. These multinationals first start their activities in extractive industries or control raw materials in the host countries during 1920s and then slowly entered. So what these countries will do is they will try to have hand on raw materials, and slowly they will try to establish their company into that country. So they were those type of people. Into the manufacturing. So first they come in with raw materials only, then they go for manufacturing sectors and service sectors. Most of the MNCs at present belong to four major exporting countries, that is USA, that's America, UK, United Kingdom, France, Germany. However, the largest MNC country is in America. 11 of the 15 largest multinationals are Americans. So, if you have 15 multinational companies, out of that 11 companies are from America. Growth of MNCs in India. A common form of MNC participation in Indian industry is through entering into cooperation with Indian industrialists. So what these people do is they set up an industry in cooperation with an Indian industrialist. So people who are good in industry in India, they join together with those people and they form a company. Trends of liberalization in the 1980s gave a substantial spurt to foreign collaboration. Spurt is sudden. So when this liberalization took place in 1980, it gave rise to foreign collaboration. So they started to collaborate, join together with foreign countries. This would be clear from the fact that of the total 12,760 foreign collaboration agreements signed between 1948 and 1988. So how do I know that it was flourishing or developing? Because so many agreements, 12,760 foreign collaboration agreements were signed between 1948 to 1988. As a result of liberalized foreign investment policy announced in July, August 1991, there had a further spurt of foreign collaborations and increased flow of foreign direct investment. So, in July, what happened is they liberalized the foreign investment. So, they said other countries can invest, they can bring their money and do trade in India. And this gave another, rise for them to do trade with foreign direct investment. So they could directly invest in India. Reasons for the growth of MNC. Expansion of market territory. As the operation of large size firm expand, it seeks more and more extension of its activities beyond the physical boundaries of the country in which it is incorporated. So they were able to expand their market from place to place, so from territory to territory. So they will come and set one in Chennai, immediately they will set one in Bangalore, one in Pune, like that. So they were able to expand. Marketing superiorities. A multinational firm enjoys a number of marketing superiorities over the national firms. National is Indian companies. So when compared to Indian companies, these multinational companies which come from other countries, they have some marketing, they are superior in their marketing. It enjoys market reputation and face less difficulty in selling its products, and it adopts more effective advertising and sales promotion techniques. So what is the reason why they are able to sell more products? because they do lots and lots of advertisement, they do sales promotion, they promote their products very well. That's why we see in the TV and all that, even for small things they do lot of advertisements. So seeing that advertisement, what we try to do is we get that product. Okay, that was so much good in the MNCs. Financial superiority. So financially means economically, money wise also they were good at. It has financial resources, so they had lots and lots of money, so resources, and high level of funds were there for utilization, for use. Funds is also money. It has easier access of external capital markets. Because of its international reputation, it is able to raise more international resources. So these MNCs, they are worldwide, right? So they are able to they have a reputation, they have a name for themselves, so they are able to bring in all the whatever they need. Okay, now there's a list of all these multinational companies which are there in India in 2008. Some of you might know Sony, Hewlett Packard, which is HP, we say the laptops, HP laptops. Tata Group is there, Microsoft is there, IBM is there. Technological superiority. So the next one is technologically, they are very good. Okay, the main reason why MNCs have been encouraged by the underdeveloped countries to participate in their industrial development is on the account of the technological superiorities which these firms possess as compared to national companies. So technology wise, so there will be a company in one state in India and they will have lot of companies all over India, but technologically they will have a camera, they will have a billing system by which they can sit in one place and monitor everything. So technology wise they are very good. Product innovations. So new products, they will try to innovate, they will try to bring in. MNCs have research and development engaged in the task of developing new products and superior designs of existing products. So they will bring in new products as well as they will have good designs. Already existing, there will be a product, they will try to bring in new designs. Advantage of MNCs: producing the same quality of goods at lower cost and without transaction cost. So what they do is they produce quality goods but at a very low cost. MNCs reduce prices and increase the purchasing power of consumers worldwide. So what they do is they reduce the price so that worldwide people can purchase the goods. And MNC is able to take advantage of tax variation. So they will take care of the tax differences that comes across country to country. Spurring job growth in the local economy. So they are able to give job for the local people. Disadvantage: there are a way for the corporations to develop a monopoly for certain products. So what happens is when these MNCs come in, certain products, they are the only people who can produce and who can sell. So that's what we call monopoly. So they stand for certain things. They are also a determinal effect on the environment. So they cause some hazard or they cause a few falls in the environment. Okay, that is you have to understand. So in Tamil, if you see, they seeralivu, they say they cause some effects. The introduction of MNC is into a host country's economy may also lead to the downfall of smaller local business. So host is a country. Now say for example, America is putting an MNC here. That means we are the host country. So when a company like that comes in, local business will get spoiled. MNC breach ethical standards. So what happens is they will topple, they will change the original standard, accusing them of evading ethical laws and leveraging their business agenda with capital. So leveraging means increasing their business with because of their money. So that we have to keep in mind. So till this, please go through this, children.